Hello, everybody. My name is Yunshi Wilson, creator of Not Another Marketing Show and CEO of Solomon Bell Consulting, where we help companies turn their marketing into sales enablement. And on the show today, I have the pleasure of interviewing the amazing Wendy Alexander. How are you, love?
I am fine. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So, guys, as you know, on this show, this is a very candid conversation. Nothing here is planned. Everything we're going to talk about is real raw off the top of our head. So, Wendy, the unique thing that I really love about her is that she does business internationally. And one of the things that was really attracted me to having a conversation and wanting to build a relationship with her is that, as many of you know, I live in Portugal. And learning how to do business internationally is not easy. There's not just like a book that you can go and figure out. But Wendy has cracked the code. So, Wendy, I would love to hear about your experiences because you've been to Dubai, you've been doing work in not only Dubai, but the Middle East, in Portugal, and all of these different places. I'd love to hear more about that experience and some of the challenges and things you learned and had to deal with along the way.
Oh, wow. Crack the code. I've heard that a couple of times in the last couple of weeks. And I was like, is that what I did? Because honestly, when I was doing it, it wasn't my intention. My intention was that I just love doing international. I love culture, basically. And I love, meeting people, learning new things, being able to teach people, learn from people from different cultures. And so that was really my desire and drive, was just to really find these genuine relationships where I can learn. And then I made a small connection in London that ended up becoming this contract, and which really continued to grow my passion for doing international work. And then my husband decided that he was going to go overseas and work in Iraq. We had a lot of I'm very direct in my when I speak, so I'm going to be very honest, and also hopefully it will inspire someone. We had a lot of challenges financially. We were young. We had two kids. Financially, was going through a lot. Both worked at the same company. We went through layoffs. We lost our home. We lost our cars, and we were just like, this whole thing in the States is just not working. And the first thing that went through my mind was the American dollar just isn't loyal. It's not loyal to us, not in two households. And I don't know where I came up with that, but that's what it felt like.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, we have to do something different. And so he started to reach out to some people, and probably within that next week, got a job offer to Iraq. And I was like, oh, I really don't want you to go there. But that's not what I was thinking at the time,
Mm-hmm.
but we was in a tough situation. And so, we ended up living with my grandmother. And so from there, he went to Iraq, didn't stay there long, ended up going to Afghanistan probably about 3 months later. And then from Afghanistan is where he continued to really build his international logistics, I guess, entrepreneurship / business, career. And so that's where honestly a lot of this also took place. It was also out of a dire urgency for our family. And so once he went to Afghanistan, I said, well, I'm not going to go there to meet you. That's not an option for me. And so he said, well, meet me in Dubai. And I was like, I don't want to go there either. This was like, 17, 18 years ago. No one was talking about Dubai in America
No.
like that. No one
Yeah.
was, right. I mean, like, really, did you really like, the Burj Khalifa? Nobody was talking about all that stuff.
Right.
Nobody was talking. So I was like, I'm not going. So I started looking. I was like, where is this place? So all I saw was desert. And I was like, I'm not going to the Middle East. I don't see nobody looking like me. Okay. No, I didn't see anybody looking like me.
Right.
So I was like, I'm not going there to meet you. We got to figure this out. And he was like, no,
Mm-hmm.
you're really going to love it. And so finally I gave in, but it took a whole lot of convincing.
Yeah.
And honestly, I went there and fell in love with it. I told my husband within like 2 days of being there, I said, I'm going to have a business here. And he looked at me and he was like, Wendy, this is the Middle East. You are a woman, not saying that you can't do it, but there's not a lot of women leading a lot of things around here. He was just
Right.
like, so I need you to really probably focus on something else. And I was like, oh no, that was even more reason for me to say, oh no, I'm going to do it. And he's like, here? I said, yes, I'm going to have a business in Abu Dhabi and Dubai. He said, oh, so both places. And I said, yeah. And
Not
I'm
just
like,
one, but two.
not just one, but two. And then I'm going to keep on, right? I'm going to keep on
Right.
from there. And then I want to have other places. As I said, everywhere that you go, that's why I told everywhere that you go, I'm going to have a business there. And he was like, okay, whatever. You know, that's how he's like, whatever she going to do,
Whatever.
she going to do it, right? Whatever. And so he ended up, and this is the funny part of the story, you know, he like I came back home and I'll never forget him saying, I was like, well, when are you going to have training again? Because they will always have training in Dubai. And then he was like, I don't know, we'll probably have it in a couple of months. And so I got so anxious that I emailed his boss and I was like, excuse me, can you tell me when the next training is? And so when he told me when the next training was, I had already booked my ticket. So when he said, oh, I'm going to Dubai, I was like, oh, I already got my ticket. I'm going to meet you there. I'm ready to go. He was like, what? That's persistence, right? He was like, what?
Right.
You did, right? And so I ended up, I met him there. I ended up knocking on doors, old school, still do it to
Right.
this day, cold calling.
Cold calling.
It was
And it's,
cold calling,
yep.
cold calling,
Different in
and
different cultures.
that's
It's true.
right.
It's different.
That's right. It's very different. We think that we could send emails all the time. And so I knocked on doors. I landed a contract in 2 days, doing some training for the government. And it just skyrocketed from there. And I just continued to
Wow.
do that in different, mostly Middle East countries when I first started, because that's where he was working. So I went on
Right.
to Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, and some other places.
Man, kudos to you, because
Thank you.
15 years ago, trying to navigate something like that, where you see that in their own culture, these women are not running things. And you're like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm an American. Okay,
Mm-hmm. Right.
check. My husband has got a job here. I don't. Check. All right, I'm going to just go ahead and create this thing and we're going to see how it goes. Like, that takes some guts.
Yeah, and I jumped on it, and actually after I got the contract, I think I just continued on. I don't know what adrenaline I was running off of. I mean, I guess it was 110% faith. You know,
Wow.
honestly, it was definitely faith, because even after I got the contract, I never met the person who was giving the contract. The person
Interesting.
I met this recruiter type person,
Mm-hmm.
and they were just like, "Yes, we want you to come. We want you to be overseas, and we want you to work here." But the actual owner of it and who gave the money to check the contract, I didn't meet. And
Mm.
so I remember when she reached out to me, and we were talking. I think we maybe Skype or something back then. I can't remember what it was. But she was saying that she wanted me to come over, and she wanted me to, start doing some training. And I was like, okay. And I was like, well, okay, well, when is it? This is the part that you have to really listen for, because our Western ways, we look for contracts, we want
Mm-hmm.
dates, we
Yes.
want the exact date. You talking about going to a different country, you know how you gonna get there, how you gonna
Right.
get paid, right? And so they are just not like that, okay? And so
Interesting.
I had to learn that. So she was like, contract, what do you mean? I was like, what's the paperwork? She was like, I just told you how much you're gonna get. And I was like, hmm. I said, okay, so I'm supposed to trust her. So I
Right.
had to really, and that's when I start researching the culture. Because
Ah,
remember,
market research there.
that's right. And it's about your word. It's about they say what they're going to do and they do it. That's their
Mm-hmm.
culture. I don't need a piece of paper. That piece of paper should not show you my truth to
Right.
you. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to take her word.
Right.
I've never seen this woman in my life. I'm going to take her
Wow.
word. I 2 months later, that's because I was supposed to go 2 months later. I never got a contract, never got a plane ticket. If 2 weeks up until the time was for me to go, I was like, okay, am I still going? There's no plane ticket. Remember,
Right.
we would have our plane ticket 14 days, the hotel,
Exactly.
all of that, right? I got my plane ticket 2 days before leaving.
2 days before? What?
I promise you, 2 days. And then I'm sitting here and mind you, my children were young then. Okay.
Right. I
So
was thinking about what happened. What about the kids?
yeah, but I have family, because that's one thing I did. I really talked to my family about, what I wanted to do. You have to involve your family. So
Right.
they knew. But when I said, oh, I'm leaving in 2 days, they were like, okay, what? And I was like, but I'm only going to be gone for a week, because I will only do like a week at a time, because they were so young, or 2 weeks at a time, something like that. But I end up, didn't know. I said, okay, I'm going, got on the plane.
Yeah.
And I asked her, I said, who's going to pick me up? She said, a man named Beer. And I was like, what? And then she's like, a man named Beer. And I was like, okay.
All
I
right.
promise, okay. I'm going. Then I said, well,
Right.
where am I staying? He's going to tell you when you get there.
Ooh. What?
Okay.
There's so many red flags that would never
Okay.
happen in the US.
Right. And I was like, okay. Again, it was about trust. That's what she said.
Right.
Trust her, take her word. I said,
Right.
okay. I said, okay, God, you telling me to go, so I'm gonna go,
Mm-hmm.
and I really did. He told me to go, and I gotta go.
Right.
And I've never, and I hesitated on a lot of things before, but I didn't hesitate on this. And so I went, I
Yeah.
jumped on the plane. I never forget landing there and was like, what am I doing? Like, and my husband wasn't there, mind you, because he was in Afghanistan. I was always by myself. I've been doing this for
Right.
myself for years.
Yeah.
And so I met the guy. He was like, hi, I'm here. My name is Beer. His name was Beer. So I was like, okay, check. His name is
Yeah.
Beer. And, I was like, okay, Beer. Now, mind you, I'm getting into a van with a man that I don't
Right.
know. Okay.
Right. In a
So I was
whole
like,
other
okay,
country.
a whole nother country, right? Thank God I think, yeah, he was from India. And so
Mm-hmm.
he definitely spoke English. And so he was like, okay, I'm going to take you to your hotel. I was like, okay, wherever that is, right? And so he took me to the hotel. He checked me in. He paid for my hotel for the whole time I was supposed to stay there. He said, I'll be back to get you in the morning to take you to do your training. He came back the next morning, took me to my training. It was working Sunday through Thursday there.
Mm-hmm.
Thursday afternoon, it's payday because the
Mm-hmm.
training is over, right?
Right.
So I was like, okay, let's see how I'm going to get paid. Because I was so new to this, and this is where I said, really the research really does come in handy, is I
Mm-hmm.
was looking for, what do you think I was looking for? A check,
A
right?
check. Right.
Exactly. No, he hands me cash. And I was like, what do you want me to do with this? So he's like, is your payment? And I was like, I need a check. He was like, I can't take this money back overseas. And he was like, we can't pay you. And I was like, what do you mean you can't pay me by a check? And so, long story short, because I was not a citizen, because I didn't live there in the
Mm-hmm.
UAE, you can't get a banking account, and they don't do social
Right.
security numbers. They don't do things like that. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's the only way they can pay you. And so that's how he paid me. And I continued from that day, went back and forth for years,
Yeah.
doing that training. And that's pretty much how I got it started. So it took
Wow.
a lot of research, marketing, a lot of faith, a whole lot of
Yeah.
faith.
Absolutely.
A whole lot of faith. Okay. Somebody always told me, it's like, well, are you crazy, courageous, or confidence? I was like, probably a little bit of all of them. I
All
can't do
of them,
that.
right? Anyone that owns a business has got to be all three.
Exactly. So that's pretty much how it started. And I just continued to, until this day, I still talk to him. That center is no longer there. But she's actually on LinkedIn. And so I didn't know she was on LinkedIn. She is so funny. We're talking about this because she messaged me about 2 weeks ago. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's you. And I didn't meet her until almost a year later. Isn't that crazy? She
Really?
paid me every single time. And when we did meet, it was like for 10 minutes. And I told her that I wanted to continue to do this and build and do my business here, and that I
Mm-hmm.
was going to do it. And so she sent me a message. She was like, I see you're doing what you said. I'll never forget that conversation. So it's good to
That's
also hear that
amazing.
confirmation from somebody else.
Right, right. Wow, like that is a whirlwind experience and then some. And oh my goodness, there's so much to unpack there because it's one thing, given my experience in marketing, what we do in the States, and as I'm learning now from an international basis, it is completely different. And I can only imagine the way you had to do market research 15 years ago versus today.
Mm-hmm.
And now, especially in the pandemic world, everything is virtual. And clearly, you're still doing work overseas. So how is the market research a
Mm-hmm.
little bit different from then versus now? And has the culture, the work culture changed,
Mm-hmm.
since you started?
Then I was alone. I was truly alone. No one was doing what I was doing. And so I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
find anybody that was doing what I was doing. And if they were, they didn't look like me, and they were not willing to help me,
Mm.
to be honest. And so I had to do a lot of research on my own. And so research is different, I would say, definitely from the States. So it was always about culture, and it still is. So every single
Mm-hmm.
time I go into a country, or a country that I would like to do business in, I always see how does the culture and the business align. And so I research. I love reading. I do. But probably my number one marketing, I guess, tool is speaking to people from that country. And not people who say, yep, I was born there, but I left about, 20 years ago. So that's not going to help me. So I really, so a lot of my time, probably 80% of my time, even today, like I always carve out time just to connect with people in Facebook groups. Like you said, it's virtual, joining forums. I'm always in somebody's event connecting, and just building those genuine relationships. And so then it was, a lot of, asking people, translators, can you connect me to this person? When I was in the country, I would go to different events. I would go to people's houses, in the Middle East, just so I can embrace myself into the culture. And when my husband went to Saudi, it was probably my biggest challenge, to be honest, because then, women weren't driving.
Right.
I will never forget going into a Starbucks. But I wanted, let me just go back. So I wanted to really embrace the culture. And so you only had to wear the abaya, right? Which is around you at the time. I decided to wear the hijab because I wanted to be fully dressed. I wanted to fully immerse myself. I wanted to just really embrace it.
Right.
And so as I was doing that, we were going into a Starbucks. Well, I went into a Starbucks. My husband was drinking coffee. So he was already living there. I came to visit, and I was like, well, okay, I'm gonna go into this Starbucks. And they was like, no. And I was like, no, what? Right. And they was like, go on the other side. So it was this wall. So I was like, okay, I'll just go around the wall. Okay, maybe women can't be on this side, because I knew it was something, right? I couldn't be in there, period. So I was like, he's like, no, go back out. Let your husband, your driver, order for you. I said, okay. So we get up to the window. My husband doesn't drink coffee. So no, I was like, he's not about to mess up my coffee.
My order.
Okay, so that's the first thing I was thinking of. I was like, So I'm like, hello, I would like a venti, and they would never answer. And I was like, I know they hear me. I was like, hello. So finally my husband says hello, and he's like, yes, sir. I was like, okay, so this is different. And so I had to tell him what I wanted, and he thought it was the funniest thing ever, of course. And so I was over there heated, okay, because my American ways, right?
Right. You're like, wait a minute.
Because this was day one in Saudi. So I was like, okay, wait a minute. Now, I knew I had to do some things different, but this might be going to test me.
Might be a little tough.
Okay. And so I ended up, getting the coffee, and we ended up going to different places. And, I would see the different sides, and I still have those pictures. I actually said I was going to start posting those. See at the transformation of Saudi, because it would be that he would go order for food, and it would say men on this side, or you can be with family. And then when we sat in restaurants, it was, you had to be with your husband, your brother, your father, and yes, they will card you. And then every time my husband and I was together, he's 6'7", he's dressed up like a regular American, right? And then I was covered, and they were like, why is he with her? Like, because then when I'm covered, I look like I'm from the Middle East, right?
Exactly.
So they're like, okay, no, wait a minute, what is he doing with her? So we had to carry around our marriage certificate, and all the times we would get stopped by the police, the culture police. Are you married? Is this your husband?
Wait, you said the culture police?
Yeah, they have culture police. And
interesting.
In different countries. Yep, they do. So when you see police, a lot of people are like, oh, that's the police. No, it's probably the culture police. To make sure you're doing, they'll pull you over if you're in they see women in the car with men, they'll pull you over to make sure it's your husband, your father, somebody that you're related to. When I came I would always get detained in Saudi, making sure my husband was my husband. But that 5-year visa was tough to get.
Yeah.
But I learned a lot, and I think that's, and I was able to also go in there, do a lot of market research, right? Like organic.
Right.
So, so everything was really organic in the beginning, and it still is a little bit now, but when I say probably 95% was organic, it was organic learning.
Wow.
And I still try to do that to this day, because number one, it builds relationships, right? Relationships are going to lead to what? Referrals into business. It always does if you do it the right way. And then, but also it's going to teach me about the culture. And so, but today, now it's like, okay, I can go on the internet, meet people, do virtual, do Zooms. And so now the way that I teach even my classes, it's a lot easier for people than it was for me. I've done all the hard work,
Right.
And to be honest, and now being able to provide this access and this structure to how do you really market internationally without having to go to the country.
Exactly.
I do encourage it. I do encourage it because you definitely do learn more, but you don't always have to go. I think that's what people see sometimes. They see me, they're like, I really want to do business internationally, but I don't want to go to the country, like you did. No one wants to just be jumping on planes, Wendy, and not knowing where they're going. I have a lot of people say that to me, but that's probably the biggest difference is that you have more access to people.
Right.
I'm not sure if a lot of people know that the video, Skype,
Hmm.
video conferencing was blocked in Dubai up until the pandemic. We didn't
I,
have that.
I, I did know, I have a friend who lives in Abu Dhabi, and she was explaining to me that FaceTime and certain other
Yeah.
apps like that you simply can't use. And I'm like,
No.
really? They have their own
Yeah.
systems.
They do, and they block it. And it's like bottom and stuff like that you can use. They do have it, but so what I would have to do my trainings out when I lived in Dubai, I would go to the hotels because the hotels where you can use Zoom there, like businesses
Hmm.
can use Zoom. So I will always check in a hotel on the weekend and do my classes. So that was the
Yeah.
only way. So it was a lot of sacrificing. That's why I tell people like
Right.
this international thing ain't no joke.
It's not easy.
It's not. And so, but I really think from then till today, it's just that you have more access. But I still
Hmm.
say you still need to do a lot of organic
Hmm.
because of different cultures. You have to master the culture. There is no way around it. That if I would say prior to me cracking the code, it would be the culture. If you don't learn the culture, learn to
Hmm.
respect it, figure out how you can align them together, you're going to
Right.
struggle. You're honestly going to struggle. I've gotten contracts just based off of me being able to say two words, in their language,
In
to
their
be honest,
language.
you know?
That is fascinating because it is the epitome of what everything I talk about in marketing is understanding and knowing your target audience. And in this case, when
Hmm.
we go to moving things in an international basis, you kind of have to wipe the slate clean of the sensibilities of what you know from an
That's
American
right.
way, because now you need to cater to them in what they need specifically, not just the business need, but also the culture need. That's another layer.
That's right.
And as I'm learning along the way, a lot of it is where I'm used to digital and boom, 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 boom. That
Hmm.
doesn't really move the needle here. GDPR kind of
Mm-mm.
put the kibosh on that. And
Hmm.
so people, they're still, I mean, right now I'm seeing events being planned and people, and I'm like, I got to plan some trips. Like I need to go to Greece. I need to go to France. There's
Hmm.
all of these things that need to be done.
Hmm.
And the beautiful part about it is like in America, we're always looking for that next big opportunity. I really think the next big opportunity is international business
Oh,
because
absolutely.
a lot of people just don't want to have to deal. There's like, I got to go learn the culture in France. I got to learn the culture in Portugal. You have to learn all of the nuances, and
You
that's a
have
lot
to
of work.
learn it. It's a lot of work, and you had to be so mindful. Like I was in a meeting the other day, and so it was a man. He was from India, and so he
Mhm.
kept, nodding his head. And a lot of people, and I had a counterpart was with me, and so she sent me this text message. She was just like, "I don't think he likes what you're saying. He keeps nodding his head." And I was like, "No, actually, as part of the culture, he's actually agreeing to me." You see, so
Look
and
at
so
that.
she isn't that something? So she had
Hmm.
taken it as no, he's not interested. Had I not been there, I don't know what she would have done because actually I was doing it for her. So sometimes I act as a liaison for people,
Right.
trying to negotiate and do business deals within different countries. And so she was like, "Oh my gosh, I honestly would have thought that he did not." Like she was so worried. And finally, an hour in, she was like, "He keeps nodding his head and stuff. I don't think he." And I was like, "No, actually, he does." And so at the end, he was like, "This was amazing. I'm really impressed." I was like,
Look at that. That is absolutely fantastic. I think that when we're and it speaks volumes to the actual reality that now we're going to face because some of us are finally coming off a lockdown. Like Portugal, we finally have a deconfinement plan. And I know the States, has theirs. And as we emerge post this pandemic, I think we're emerging into a kind of a new world where
hmm
some people are going to want to continue working from home. But I really foresee travel and connection at events are going to skyrocket in amazing, amazing ways. What are some things that what are some initial trends that you're seeing post the pandemic in the international world?
So I do events. I actually, with my Global Success Society, every year, because women were not traveling, I would say, come on, go international. And they would take my class. And I was like, but you're still in the States.
Right.
Come on. So I was like, okay, I got to figure this out. So I got to solve a problem. And so I created what was called the Global Sisterhood Retreat. And so I was like, okay, now women are able to come to Dubai and, wherever we were, and they're able to connect, right? I was like, okay, that problem solved. But then I had women coming to me and said, Wendy, I really like what you're doing. I want to be an international speaker as well, but I cannot get on any platforms. I can't even start here in the States. I'm struggling to be a speaker. So I was like, oh, okay. So I built in what is called the Global Business Connections Conference inside of the retreat. So I had 2 events in 1 week. Okay.
Wow.
And so what I did was a 2-day conference where we actually brought women together, and it was intentional connections, meaning I went out and connected those women to the people who were actually coming. So they would have someone to connect with, right?
I love
so
it.
Everyone left there with some type of connection, some type of partnership, or, someone that they can actually connect with, do business with,
Right.
or friendship. And so I continued to do that for a couple of years. And that's one of the things I think that will continue and be even stronger now because of the pandemic and what's happening. And people have missed that connection, and people are able to do events online. We also, Dr. Robin Jobby and I, and Erica T. Johnson, we do International Shades of Beauty, which was in Dubai. We're supposed to be in Ghana last year, but because of the pandemic we did it virtually. It ended up making history as one of the largest international beauty and wellness events online. And so we'll do it again this November in Kenya, but it's going to be, of course, because of the pandemic, online.
Yeah.
But what we're doing is, if you think about it, we're doing this virtual event that's going to pique that interest of, okay, 2022, when you all do it, we're going to be ready to go because we want to see that connection. We want to see the people that we've been, doing this virtual event with and partnering with and connecting with for 2 years, that people are going to want to go. Events are going to skyrocket. And so I have even carved out a bigger piece for events. I've even had people now that said, listen, if you would do your masterminds again, I will take a COVID test. I will show you my vaccine. So like, can you just do because I did smaller events when I would come home. I would do these masterminds in Atlanta and North Carolina and places, right? Yeah. And they were like, we will show you. And so I said, now that people are doing the vaccines and stuff, and people are asking people to do COVID tests, I said, I might consider maybe 2 or 3 people, small masterminds and stuff like that. But my events will definitely pick up. But I've seen people who have never, ever thought about doing events are planning events. That's the way to go, honestly, because people are going to want to be around people. They miss that interaction, that social interaction. Even companies, I've had corporations to say, listen, I saw that you did an event in Dubai. And I was like, yeah, but it wasn't matching their culture. But they was like, can you figure it out how to make it match our culture? I was like, okay. So they were like, well, we want you to do the event for our culture. And it's a pretty large organization. And so they want for me to create this event inside of their organization once people are back in the office. And so even corporations who don't do events are now looking to do events. And so I think that the urgency is there. I don't think it's a time of waiting. I think it's a time of planning. I think it's a time of doing smaller events, virtually, to build up to your larger events for people to come, because people want that. People even said, they've been asking me to buy pre-sale tickets for 2022. And I was like, I don't even have a date.
Need a place, you need a date.
Right, nothing. And y'all want to give me money. I was like, I can't do that. So definitely incorporating events. I see that's the way to go. And especially for what you do, I totally think that you should definitely do it, like your own little tour type thing. That'll be amazing.
It is, it's rather interesting. It's not something I initially considered because I've spent so much time being an advisor to companies, being that inside person. And I've just kind of pivoted to where I'm going to focus more on speaking engagement and workshops. And I kind of threw out the idea at a clubhouse that I do every Saturday that I'm going to host a mastermind retreat specifically for business leaders in corporate or, entrepreneurs, where we're going to come together and really break down the nuances. Right. Like I really don't like conferences where you go and you're not really connecting. It's like one big webinar, right? It drives me nuts. So it's so much better to have like these intimate, and the thing is most corporations don't really do they don't know mastermind, not the way the entrepreneurship world does. Yeah. And I was like, I think I might do something in the Algarve. And I had like 2 or 3 people message me and say, when? Like, we will give you the money right now. And I was like, really? See? So it's answering the call.
I love it. That's right. Answering the call. That's it. Answering the call. So yeah, you'll definitely do well with that.
Yeah. So this has been fantastic. I mean, I've learned so much in this short amount of time, and speaks to the entire culture of what I try to get the audience to comprehend, and it being not another marketing show, because so many people think of business to business as Nike or HP or Dell. And it's not just that. It's business to business in every single scale. So the fact that you have this training organization that is serving an audience internationally and it's still a wide pool out there that so many of us can now really take advantage of, I think is just absolutely brilliant. So I am so grateful for your time here. And one of the ways I love to close out the show is by having people basically having you give us 2 truths and a lie, and then having the audience guess which one is the lie.
Okay. 2 truths and a lie
about yourself.
Okay. All right. So 2 truths and a lie. I don't like shopping. I love playing basketball. This is hard. I don't watch TV. Okay.
I can't think of which one is the lie. So this is going to be interesting. So you guys leave in the comments which one you think is the lie, and make sure that you take a look at all of the links to connect with Wendy, learn more about her trainings that we'll have here at the top or the bottom of the video. Thank you so much, Wendy, for spending some time here with us today and sharing your amazing story.
Thank you. You're more than welcome. And thank you so much for having me. I truly enjoyed this. I love it. Thank you. I love it. Thank you so much. I'm honored.
Absolutely. So till next time, guys, I'm Yanchi Wilson signing off.